In our last video, we discussed the deity of Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ was God in the flesh. This clear teaching in the Bible goes against some of the common beliefs that Jesus was created or an angel. The reason for this confusion is the lack of understanding that Jesus was both man and God. This failure to recognize both natures has caused a great deal of confusion. For example, let's look at James 1:13. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself does not tempt anyone. This text says that God cannot be tempted, but the Bible clearly teaches that Jesus was tempted. Hebrews 2 and verse 18 reads, For since he himself was tempted, in that which he has suffered, he is able to come to the aid of those who are tempted. So a common question that comes up is, how can Jesus be God if God cannot be tempted? Well, the Bible answers this question in one of the most famous passages of Scripture found in Philippians chapter 2. Starting at verse 6, it reads, Who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Now notice that this text states that Jesus is described as being in the form of God, but also he humbles himself in the likeness of men. We must remember that Jesus is both God and man. That is what the Bible means when it says in John chapter 1 and verse 14, And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Now let's go back and look at the text in Hebrews 2 again. In verse 17 it reads, Therefore he had to be made like his brethren in all things, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the things pertaining to God, to make propitiation for sins of the people. Part of the reason Jesus was subjected to temptation is so he could be the mediator between man and God. Hebrews goes on to say in chapter 4 and verse 15, For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. Though Jesus had the nature of God and man, he never had the fallen nature of man because he never sinned. He was able to do what Adam, the first man, could not do, thus making Jesus a perfect man and ultimately the perfect sacrifice for all sin. If Jesus would have sinned, then he would not have been God. We must recognize that Jesus is God, but we must also remember that while he was in the flesh, he was tempted as we are, but did not sin, thus leaving us a perfect example of how to live our lives. In future videos, we will continue to look at the Bible to get a clearer picture of who Jesus is, and we will also explore some of the false teaching that rob him of his identity. We must discover the truth of Jesus, because it is only in that truth that we learn what life truly is. And trust me, he's worth believing in.